Did I say the wrong word?
There you go.
Okay, you got it? Is
Yep.
it cue time? Okay. Clock of Destiny. Knowledge of truth is mankind's highest attainment. You shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. All evidence points towards the fact that the had truth had been taught, there would have been no need for the great statement to be recorded in literature, especially the Bible. I'm aware of the fact that the category of astrology, global geography, and the history of Moorish nation will conflict with 9 out of every 10 persons of the United States of America, especially those often referred to the N-word ranging between 20 to 50 years of age, owing to Christian education. Therefore, I can see that the category of science mentioned will appeal to the youth of tomorrow, those who will approach the ages of 18 to 21 by 1954. The restoration of civilization relies upon the ability of this group during the next 7 years of the global, economic, and social revolution. The majority of those now ranging between 20 and 50 years of age have been too deeply instilled with emotional religious doctrines and distorted history, which has been written by prejudiced European American educators during the past 93 years. This group emotionally rely upon that which they have been taught to believe facts and testimony are not the foundation of their faith, except in very rare cases. These people accept without question the beliefs of those among whom they are born and reared, and will disbelieve even the evidences of their senses rather than disband with impractical emotion. Can you scroll down a little bit? Impractical, emotional, religious beliefs which have grown in them. Persons who possess the applied knowledge of science of astrology always employ the terms such as science, truth, or facts, rather than the mystic magic terms employed in religious mystery, namely Allah, God, Jehovah, Jesus, and Christ. These 5 magic religious terms breed only false fear, mental confusion, conflicting opinions, and secret hatred. Astrologers are aware of the fact that the forementioned mystic magic phrases of emotional fear employed in religious mystery are laden with confusion, mental slavery, human hatred, jealousy, discrimination, human caste, economic and social degradation, human warfare, bloodshed, destruction, and starvation.
What's your thoughts on that? Did you want?
Yeah. Well, I didn't grow up with like a lot of religion like that. The only religion I really grew up with was like, well, I feel like Buddhism, but even then I kind of just, before I just didn't believe in anything like that. But I did see how religion like separated a lot of people because I always got people trying to like pull me into something and talking about God and this, but people are always like fighting about it. And since I've been working, as a caregiver over the weekends, I go to the church with the woman I take care of, and I see how they do really try to grab the emotions of people. Um, and I see, and they're nice. I know it's like for a positive thing, but that's kind of how I see religion. That's how it is. They do try to get to the emotions of people, and it can be manipulative, spiritually abusive if you're not careful. Did anyone grow up like in church or anything? Or how did you guys grow up?
Christian.
What was the question? You said anyone what?
Did you guys grow up in like on any kind of like religion?
I was Baptist church pretty much my whole life. Like my grandfather had his own church. He was a preacher, and we stayed like literally behind the church, and then his house through the fence right there, or his grandmother's house. But pretty much my whole Branco was like Baptist, and my grandfather lived next to a Mason Hall. I'm sure he was like as a Mason, a preacher. And most of my uncles were deacons. My aunties were like secretary, and I was like an usher in church. So I'm pretty much I was from the Baptist out. birth to like 20. Happened to go to church, summer church, the whole thing. But yeah, mine was Baptist, and I can definitely see how the emotions play because you got the music, they're
Mhm.
praying for a long time, and then I started, just following in the Bible, just as a child. I'm just reading, and I'm not getting it, but I noticed you just pick a passage and just read that, and never, go in depth, and just kind of fabricate that, type deal. And when I started getting other schools of thought, I started seeing, like, all right, cool. But for me, it was Baptist, and I can see how you were saying that they really control the mothers with it because there's a lot of women in the church. Well, for me, grandmas, aunties, like cousins, and all that, pretty much was girls and women, and a few of us. So here, and I'm in the South in Alabama, so it was pretty much Baptist everything here. But I yield.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like everybody have a background. In the context of this, people use Allah, God, Jehovah, Jesus, Christ, Buddha, whatever the today name brand. People use it in a way for manipulation and talk about it in a certain box, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, but it's also a way to separate people too.
mm, oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's why they say like war, destruction. Like, you have people that are in different communities saying like this is the story, this is the story, no, this is the story. Then you have people fighting.
right. Over the version of the story, interpretation, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
These are examples of emotional fear being stirred up, making it this mystery, versus how we know how we're coming, or based on the knowledge that we know. We can unite people based on Allah, Yahshua, Buddha. It's all about the direction you take with the information, right?
Right.
I would also say that a lot of this like religion is looking like outside of yourself,
Mhm.
right? Because when we're studying like more science, you're studying like nature and self. And when you look at religion, you're looking outside of yourself, right? For not understanding that it's like it's connected, just thinking that God's out there like that. But actually it's like within. You just gotta know yourself, studying the zodiac, right? Studying your energy.
And that really is, that's what I'm gonna say, religion. It's still that is religion, even
This
studying,
is the connection.
but most
Study yourself.
yeah, but most people look at religion as being outside of yourself, even though the word
Yes.
religion is just the etymology of the word is dealing with the within. You're talking about realignment. You know what I mean? So
Right. That does have to
Mhm.
deal a lot with, like, it's like, when you're talking to people about it, you got to ask almost like, okay, well, what is your definition of it? Because, I see religion as in ways that man has took upon, and man or woman or whoever, they decided that they want to go by these set of ways. So they make a religion. I see it as like, when things were good and cohesive and peaceful with our ancestors, that we were living a way of life, because the creator, who however people want to call it, the creator didn't he's all in control. He did not make us robots. Like, he could make us just order and just do everything if he wanted, but we have the option to do or live a life that is pleasing to the creator, or we have the option to do basically what I would say religion, and do what that person feels like they want to do, because it's when you get technical with it, because some people say like, oh, I just do good, and that is pretty good, but it's going to come to a time where there's a friction where, like, doing good to you could be taking care of your family, taking care of your elders, raising the children respectfully and things like that. And good could be to another set of people of sacrificing 20 people a year or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's, I mean, like, it's just the world is in such a very very strange state, because there's a lot of manipulation. And like you were talking about in the church, a lot of people are there for beneficial purposes of finances, or feeling like they're in power or they're in control. It's a lot of it, it's hard to tell like who's really doing the best in their heart, but you
Yeah, that's, um,
Yeah,
that's
when you control the God, you control the people, and the
right.
priest knows that. So
Yeah.
they will definitely make a profit being your prophet.
I like that.
That was the line.
That's a bar right there.
Bar.
Yeah, that was the line.
No,
Yeah,
but
that's
we
what
know,
I'm saying.
we know that they definitely will. That was the big fight to teach people real spirituality of looking within. The kingdom of heaven was within, and they will say, look for him coming out the sky or whatever. Look outside of self. So people are chasing
Right.
God outside the self their whole life and not know, like, you find Allah in the heart. So.
Right.
So it's you'll chase forever if you're looking outside of self. So that, I think that's
Very
the big, but we all know the priesthood is dead. All that TD Jakes and stuff is done.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're and like, they're not even coming, like you said, about waiting for a man to come up out the sky, because if a person believes in that faith, when you read it, the whole reason why they're in the situation that they're in is because the ancestors and the people as a whole went away from the ways of the Most High. And then he said, okay, well, if you go away from my ways, I'm going to place these certain curses on you. But when you return to my ways, I will reverse these curses. So the whole teaching should be returning to the ways, not waiting on a man to come and save us, and then he supposedly came and then he died and then he left again. I mean, I know it's it could be a sensitive thing for certain people, but I'm only speaking like this because I have, really studied the scriptures for like 7 years. Like, I mean, really studied it and going to different preachers, and I just show what the word says. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it gets deep. It gets real deep.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are they're not realizing, like, it's has to do with a lot of energies, frequencies, and vibrations. So we can't really see it. So that's why we have to learn the cosmos, and see how the planets Earth, see how they're affecting us, because they're sending energy to us. That's nobody can get in the way of that. That's between you and God directly. Nobody can manipulate those energies unless they know what's going on, and then they, then you could, in a sense, at the end of dealing with it. But yes, like, you definitely need to know for yourself so you can control your own life path dealing with the energies. So it's really, it's really something.
Yeah, that's why it's important to know yourself, so that way people don't manipulate you.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah,
like,
because religion is like like people use it as like a moral compass. Like Trey was saying, like people use it because they need a little bit of direction. They follow like a set of rules to
yeah,
be able to live life. But if you know yourself and you have that right with the creator, then
yeah,
you're on your own path. You're on the path that the creator, have you on. Pretty much your
yeah.
own special journey. Everyone's journey is different. So whatever the creator has that, for you, that's what you got to know. Because if you don't know it, and that's why you go to church, you're like, oh, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know this. Let me live by this. I'm gonna
They'll tell
follow.
you.
And that's how you get stuck in that.
Yes.
All right, that was that's good. So let's read a couple more paragraphs and have another. This is good. This is good stuff. Right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've been talking about this since I was a kid. I was I grew up with like I didn't have like religion or anything, so this is like very interesting to me. Okay. Today, religious worshippers have proven to the entire world that they had rather resort to emotional human hatred and fight, suffer, and die over the name of mystical God and religion than reasonably agree with simplified and applied truth, facts, or science involving their economic and social stride, as shown in the 12 signs of ever-present zodiac. Keynote of wisdom. In order that you might readily understand the contents of this book, you are advised to momentarily lay aside all that which you have been taught to believe except mathematics. And as a result, you'll be guided by common reason rather than by traditional emotional belief. I'm aware of the fact that both Muslim and Christ teachers have a monopoly of mystic religious superstition, but not on mathematics. The science of geometry involving the 12 signs of the zodiac, the universal law, Islam. Okay, astrology and astronomy. The difference between astrology and astronomy is that astrology treats of human characteristics, talent, action, and reaction, sociology, economics, and global geography or space and time. Astronomy is the priest, pope, bishop, rabbi, preacher, duke, duchess, queens, king, and Anglo-Saxon lords code of the Christian world, of whom propagates the myth culture of heaven in the sky and hell below after death. The Christian astronomers are the stargazers who go to heaven by way of an expensive telescope and promulgate that which they imagine live on the planets Mars, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Moon, and Venus. Such philosophy definitely cannot help solve our economic and social problems. The real moon and sun are under our feet, namely Earth. The powers of the moon and sun dwell in the woman. And this is like going back to how the woman is closest to nature, right? How they said the powers of the moon and sun dwell in woman, but it says the real moon and sun are under our feet, which is Earth, nature, right? Now you can draw your own conclusions as to why astrology and astronomy conflict. Astrology erases all beliefs and opinions of superstition, confusion, religious mystery, false fear, and idol or image worship. Astrology has always involved this universal simple fact, namely, woman and grown sons. In the course of 1 second, one can observe the moon, sun, stars, and earth in themselves without employing a telescope. Therefore, woman and grown sons comprise the supreme manifestation of the whole creation, space and time, which need no doctrine of religious mystery, fear, or superstition to influence them to employ which is right. Because the science of astrology, woman, suns, earth, water, air, heat, and food constitute the great force of creation, often referred to in science as electromagnetic, current, and voltage or atomic energy. Remember, the human body and mind and earth contain all elements of nature. We are what we drink, eat, inhale, and exhale. Therefore, all energy generates from our stomach, mind, and earth. We, the human family, are the only supreme moving planets or heavenly bodies. We were just talking about this. Objects do not come to us. We go to all objects by the way of walking, riding, flying, sailing, observation, mathematics, vibration of sound, and signal. Our code of facts, perfection, and guidance of practical wisdom comprise 0 through 9. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 3, 6, 9, and 12. the universal standard rule of measurement in the letters of the alphabet. So astrology is the code of the Moorish nation, our forefathers of this hemisphere, who founded the universal order of Islam 1,367 years ago and re-educated the confused human family, thereby establishing the greatest civilization that the world has ever known, the civilization in which we now live. So I guess this is talking about how like religion, like back in the day, people were following religion and Christ and all that, thinking it's outside of themselves. But with more science, right, studying self, and it's just going back to how the numbers were created and how even based off the numbers, the Romans started to make Roman numerals,
Mhm.
right? So it says, so 0 through 9 and 3, 6, 9, 12, and the 60 seconds of the minute, 60 minutes of the hour, and also the letters of the Arabic alphabet, all of which comprise the culture of the Moors, or forefathers of the Muslim world, who are often referred to in Christian literature as Mohammedans or heathens.
All right,
So
so
the code,
let's stop
you
right
want to stop right there? Okay.
reflect on these last couple paragraphs.
Let me
So
turn.
we don't need a telescope to necessarily go to heaven or the concept of heaven, because we're having an experience. Everybody on this call represents a planet. I represent Mercury, etc. Right? Every sign has a ruling planet. So essentially, it's every time we're having a gathering, we're having an orbit. You know what I mean? And like you said, the Earth's under our feet. And just as energy and everything. Right? So whatever makes up the heavens makes up whatever we're doing. It's just in a different form. You know, it's always going to be hydrogen. It's always going to be carbon. But when these things are in a certain order, like H2O, for example, hydrogen squared, oxygen, we have an exact right compound for water, right? So that's what I got out of what you read, as far as the concept of going to heaven or hell. We're in the midst of heaven. We're in heaven right now, and it's a state of mind. You can be in heaven based on the actions you take throughout your life, and now you got all these people that want to help you out, love what you're doing. Things are going smooth, all your plans are going well. That's heaven. And you got the other side of the spectrum, things are going bad. Can't come to nobody to assist you. Nobody want to mess with you. Everything, nothing's working. No ideas you come up with work, nothing. That's hell. It's an experience, it's not really, you got to wait to die to enter these realms. You know what I mean? And that's another aspect that needs to be emphasized. And then we have the number system that stood out to me. So these are all the numbers. It doesn't go no higher than this. So when we have 360, what are we really saying? We're just saying 9. When we got 180, what are we saying? We're just simply saying 9, right? That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I just wanted to elaborate, but go ahead, you got it.
Oh, well, I was also gonna say kind of like how you're talking about like energies, right? And how you're talking kind of like manifesting, right? You're talking about heaven and hell. Like we manifest that because it comes from like within, right? If we're feeling like heavenly, we're feeling good, we're on a higher vibration, right? We're like that electromagnetic current that we have in our body free flowing, right? We have that high energy, we'll be able to be on the same frequency, we'll be able to attract things that will make things easier, right? That's why everything's like, oh, everything's so great because you're feeling great. But then if you're not feeling good and things start to happen, it's because that energy is not free flowing at blockages. And now you're on a different frequency and you're attracting different things. And that's the difference between like the heaven and the hell is your vibrational energy. Because right when we're studying the zodiac, we're studying our energies, right? And how we're able to attract things to us based on our energy. And like you said, like, you know, we do have our own heaven and hell. It's really up to us.
That's
You know.
exactly right. Mhm.
It's up to us.
Yeah, whatever
But
you're thinking, you're attracting.
and I
Mhm.
have to say that's why it's important to like work on the shadow self, because you know we're all humans, right? We go through things in life. And that's why if you start to really know all of yourself, like you explore all the depths of yourself, not even just the good side, but the sides of you that's gone through traumas and things like that, then you have more control of yourself. Because if you don't look at that shadow self, you don't work on that side of yourself, that's going to be in control of you. Not that's part of your hell. But if you work through that, you can make that into heaven, because you can face it and you can still have love, unconditional love for that part of yourself. And when you have that unconditional love and part of yourself inside, you can extend that out and have grace for people outside of you. And that's the vibrational frequency. That's why that inner work is so important.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, and brother Larry Bay, peace and love, man. How you doing, man?
Oh,
Um,
Islam, everyone. Good
Islam,
morning.
Islam.
Islam. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone.
Hey Larry,
Hey, how we doing? How we feeling?
you're good. We need to
Okay,
get on a
that's
talk later.
yes, indeed, yes, indeed. I'm enjoying the civics class today. Just sitting back in just listening in, tuning in. Sounds great, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
all right,
Okay.
all right.
Should we continue?
Code of Roman Cross, I believe.
Yeah, right here. Okay, so the code of the Roman cross order. So these are the Roman numerals. So 1, 2, all the way up to, they have 9 and they have 10. The X is 10. And the Latin or Spanish language comprised the Christian code, of which was born out of our Moorish forefathers' code in South America, Batagnia, known today as Argentina, the original region of the new masses of humanity who possesses ruddy or red pale skin with greenish blue eyes and long blonde hair. Argentina, Brazil, Peru, Colombia, and Venezuela, all of which comprise the springboard of the Roman nation of many different races, caste, and colors guided by dogmas. Dogmas is a Latin phrase which defines as false doctrine. Okay. Rome and con. The term Rome implies the people who conquer by intrigue, force, and violence, and enslave the human mind through false doctrine of religious mystery and image, or idol worship of various mystical god phrases, most common of which are Jehovah God, Christ, or Buddha. Let's remember that these United States of North America comprise every so-called race of the lily white family. The term con implies the people who control the board of real estate, commerce, production, and distribution of the order of the Roman colonization, which manifested with Wall Street in Amsterdam or New York, USA, and Java, East India, both of which are the headquarters of the nobles, dukes, lords, and the duchesses of Rome and Con, the jury over the wealth and culture of the Moorish or Asiatic nation, our forefathers who were defeated by the Roman conquerors. After having undergone some 364 years intermittent conflict from Catania to Alaska, Canada and Greenland having been defeated by the Roman tribes of South America, they submitted themselves to Roman slavery under names such as the N-word and Indian, which resulted in the loss of their birthright in 1774 Christian calendar year, which is equivalent to 1194 Moorish calendar year. 1453 to 1492 Christian calendar year is equivalent to the 873 to 912 Moorish calendar year. The Roman conquerors added 580 years to the Moorish calendar. 1795 Christian calendar year is equivalent to the 1215 Moorish calendar year. 1865 Christian calendar year is equivalent to 1285 Moorish calendar year. 1946 CCY is equivalent to 1366 MCY. 1946 and 1366 have cleared up the mystery of the 666. New York is the Empire State of the Order of Rome and Khan. New York is the Empire State of the Order of Rome and Khan, the lily white people of the world. Have you ever stopped to think that among the Asiatics of the USA, referred to as the N-word, there can be had a similarity of every so-called race of the entire world?
Oh, brother Hassan, peace and love, man.
Love, brother.
So
So
that
well, I wanted to say, so not to cut you off, but 580 years, that's something to remember, whoever doesn't know that. So you can take 2024 Christian calendar year, subtract 580, and that'll give you what it is today in Moorish calendar year. That's simple. What else were you about to add? You about to add something else?
Oh yeah, and I was gonna say this just reminds me of like church and state, how they say Rome, right? That's like the church part, and then state is like the con part where they're talking about like kind of like their structure, like their governmental structure, right? They talk about lords and duches and all that stuff.
And that's the noble families
Mm-hmm.
has control over the corporate state, right? Because it takes a nationality of people to even incorporate an incorporation, right? So
No separation.
yeah. So that, symbolically, the Khan will represent the state.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in control of Rome, even though it looks like Rome is in control. But when you start analyzing today, it's always a noble family that's controlling everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says New York is the Empire State of the Order of Rome and Khan, the lily white people of the world.
Mm. And then even talking about that, how what's it alluded to, every nationality of people derive, well, as multiple nations sprung up from the amalgamation of, because remember, it's two sides of the spectrum. You got original man, which is the kinky haired, highly melanated, and then you have the other side of the spectrum was a creation, blonde hair, blue eyed people that got created in South America. And so just a little background because they're not really going into depth in this context, but so from Patagonia or Argentina, Central South America, and the Yucatan, it was a hybrid experiment, which is talked about in like the Frankenstein represents this concept that we're talking about. The Island of Dr. Moreau is another movie that symbolizes what we're talking about, where it was a hybrid experiment with basically a monkey called the troglodyte nigger and original woman. Based on that blending, you have a product that has blonde hair and blue eye now. It's like a mankind got created in these areas. And in these areas, the equator is right there. So it was too hot for this new breed of human or mankind that doesn't have melanin in the skin, it's in the eyes and the hair. They had to be shipped to a colder part of the planet. Iberian Peninsula, Asia Minor, which was under the jurisdiction of Queen Europa. So her subjects that got, the blonde hair, blue eyed stock of people were called Europeans because that was their mother, that, under her jurisdiction. So that's where that come from. I wanted to add that, whoever didn't know that as well, because I'm not really going into that scope in this literary work. But was there anything else that somebody want to highlight before we continue or kind of discuss or any level?
No, it just says that the order of the Roman colonization started like around New York.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention that because when we're talking about the colonies, right? They're all like different. You said corporations, so we're talking about like the royal families, right? The Romans, right? Europeans. So they started everything. It says in New York, the headquarters where they controlled the real estate, the commerce, economy, church.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
These-
So, yeah. Bookkeeping and yeah, still to this day. And when we start thinking about this now, we look at the towers dropping a little different now. Back in 2001, World Trade Center and all these things that happen at these monuments. There's more backstory to it now. All right, I guess you got it. I guess you continue.
Can you scroll down a little bit more? I'm at the land of the Moors and the crest of Asia. Okay, that's fine right there. Okay, the land of the Moors, the crest of Asia. Peru, Mexico, Isabela or Cuba, USA, Canada, and Alaska, all of which comprise the land of the cultured Moors, the descendants from the ancient Moabite nation, the fathers of civilization who inhabited this hemisphere. Thus, the USA, Alaska, and Canada lie in the geographical region of the crest of Asia, often referred to as the Temple of the Moon and Sun, of which scientifically imply the greatest inclination of the Earth's axis to the Sun during the months of June, July, and August in the Northern Hemisphere. What our forefathers were before this land of ours, namely the Mexam, was named North, Central, and South America. We are that today, without a doubt of contradiction, namely Moor. The Moors derived from the name Moabite. The crest of Asia symbolizes the Great Pyramid as shown on the reverse side of a United States $1 bill of 1928. Names such as the N-word, black, colored, Indian, red, African, Jew, and white are slave labels of the Roman cross order of segregation, hatred, slavery, and exploitation. The Reconstruction period of 1853 and 1865 resulted in the United Order of the Christian Lily White World of Organized Labor. Ooh.
My bad.
That's okay. Down a little bit more. Land of the Moors. Keep going. That page right there. A little bit down more. Ready? All the underlines? Yeah. Okay. The Reconstruction period of 1853 and 1865 resulted in the United Order of the Christian Lily White World of Organized Labor, Agricultural, Industrial, and Commercial Unionism, and military procedure, which made the Roman nations the mistress of the seven seas. The manifestations of the KC of KKK. The Union of 1853 to 65 was the manifestation of the KFC and the KKK, which involved some 500 million people of red, ruddy, pale skin with long hair, which comprised of 1/4 of the world's population of 2,160,000,000. The Asiatic nation comprised 3/4 of the world's population, and the European nations of the Roman Cross Order of Christ and Mary comprised of 1/4. The celebrative Magna Charta of colonial North America, which granted freedom to the blonde masses en masse French, which defines in English as one body. The celebrative Magna Charta and the document which granted economic, social, and commercial freedom and equality to all people of ruddy, pale skin with long hair or flaxen, regardless to race, label, and religionism or how do you say the word? Politicalism, faith. The process is Bilbo in 1946. The celebrated story of Abraham Lincoln involving the freedom of the Moorish descendants, referred to as the N-word, is played up falsely. The insignia of the United States dime of 1865 represents the staff of the Roman Axe, the United White Order, which unfortunately left the Moorish or Asiatic descendants on the outside looking in. Universally, during the past 93 years of Roman economic, social, and commercial stride. Father Abraham, the god of the Roman Union involving the North and South Pole, July 4th and January 1st, Lincoln. If you are skeptical, you might denounce the names such as the N-word, colored, black, and African, Go to the library and ask for the history of the Moorish Empire. In your history, and carefully observe the white servants' reactions. This is the history the European American has thought you would never know. Nevertheless, you have the fundamentals in this book, namely Clock of Destiny. Okay, so the two empires during the past 1,367 years of the new era of Islam. During the past 1,367 years, there have been only two world empires, namely the Moorish Empire of the Order of Islam and the Roman Empire of the Order of Christ and Mary. The Order of Christ is 173 years old, calculated from 1774, the era which resulted in the birth of the United States Marine Force in colonial North America. The cream of the legends referred to as pirates, which is German, Francisco, or French. During the Moorish world domination, there was no Europe, England, France, Greece, Rome, Egypt, Africa, China, Japan, or Russia across the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Therefore, United States history of the Christian order might be compared with that of the celebrated story referred to as Santa Claus mythology. Did you ever stop to think that the most sacred day of the Christian order, namely December 25th, the Christian nations promulgate the world's greatest false, the myth of Santa Claus? Remember, December 25th is the foundation of the philosophy of Christ. The history of the Moorish nation lies in the library of every state of the Union. The history of Moorish nation, our forefathers, lies hidden in the library of every state of the Union, and also in the library of practically every home of European Americans, referred to as white people. Therefore, the history of the Moorish Empire is not news to them, for they have been guided by the history of the Moors under potent influence of fear and hatred during the past 93 years, calculated from 1865. The basic reasons why Asiatics can never become Christians.
So 1 second, I wanted to
Okay.
highlight the whole. If you notice, they keep emphasizing Lincoln. Well, they say 18. I don't know if everybody know, but he got assassinated in 1865. So that's what they're talking about as a marker right here. That's the start of democracy. From that point, it's a democracy. Before he passed away, everything was a republic, right? And then the background of Abraham Lincoln before he became the president, he was a lawyer. When he was a lawyer, he had a client, which was a Moor, and he said that in open court that, my client is a Moor, which is talking about nationality and culture. So, they use him as a marker of the changing of the guard, so to speak. Now it's a democracy. Heavy, everything is democracy. Yeah. So yeah, I just want to add that.
What did they say Lincoln was? They referred to him as something in the Roman Empire, right?
Well, earlier.
Yeah. Where is they talking about him?
Celebratory story of Abraham Lincoln involving the freedom of the Moorish descendants. It's played.
Okay.
Oh, Father Abraham, the God of the Roman Union, involving the North and South Pole. So now they're going astrologically as a marker. But I guess I was speaking more politically.
So the university during the past 10 years, Roman economics, the God of Roman Union. Okay, I just want to say that. You can go ahead and go down.
Where were you at?
The basic why. Go up a little bit. Asiatics cannot be Christian. Go up a little bit more. Right there. Okay, yeah, right there. the basic reason why Asiatics can never become Christians. It is impossible for the people of heavy olive and live olive hue of skin, commonly known as dark brown, light brown, to ever become a Christian because of this fact. The Christians worship a white Son of God and his white mother Mary, the very image of themselves. The Christian God is definitely white and ruddy, pale, because his only begotten Son is tangible evidence. You might ask yourself this question: what chance do I have to enter the gates of Christian heaven dominated by a white God, his Son, and his Son's mother, Mary? The very image of the woman who falsely cries rape, followed by Son's cross burning and lynching. Such is the Christian nation's heaven, dominated by the white woman, the God of hatred, fear, crime, and corruption. On the contrary, there is a specific reason for the new masses of humanity, referred to as white people, to establish the church and false doctrine of Christ and Mary. So let us observe the reason in order that we might take a broad view, which will enable us to erase the hatred against them, which is now dominating our nature. It has already been stated elsewhere in this book that during the past 1,367 years, there has been only two world empires, namely the Moorish Empire of the Order of Islam and the Christian Empire of the Order of Christ. During the world domination of the Moorish nation, the blonde women of Patagnia, South America, which is Argentina, had manifested their cultured height in the society of Islam, which qualified them to establish the society of the cross laden with mystery and emotional false doctrines. As a positive weapon of liberating themselves from the amalgamated iron-handed rulers or dictators who had shielded the secrets of nature as shown in the signs of the zodiac and established, can you go down a little bit, please? There you go. And establish a doctrine of mystery and religious superstition by force. As a result, the following amalgamated generation of Moorish fathers and blonde mothers grew up in ignorance of science, of the 12 signs of the zodiac, and applied the principles of Islam, which in turn resulted in the corruption of society of Islam. Under the influence of Islamism, of variable, unreasonable procedures of religious worship, strenuous, mysterious prayers, and the restriction of literary education to the common masses. So when they're saying Moorish fathers and blonde mothers, are they talking about like the mixes, like the Asiatic, like they're saying like Japanese, Arabic? There was a portion, right? Somewhere.
Right, right. When they say that, that's the amalgamation. It was a lot of races that sprung out of that creation, right?
Mhm.
Then we have mixing, so that's why you have a lot of races that are like in the middle, basically.
Mhm.
That's
And
just-
then, but sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, you got it.
Sorry, but I was saying, they were saying because of this, like the church and everything, in the mixing, they grew up ignorant of the science of like the zodiac, of like energies,
Mhm.
right? Is what it's saying right here. Ignorance of the science of the 12 signs of the zodiac and the applied principles of Islam. So because of all the mixing and everything that was going on, and they implemented the church, now there's like forgotten information about ancient practices and perspectives. I do know that like, certain like Buddhism, right? Certain, because there's different kinds of Buddhism, right? Similar to like in the church, right? There's different kinds of, you know, churches, but I know like with a lot of Buddhist practices, they do still practice with meditation, right? And that's just to study self and things like that. But not all. I don't think all Buddhists are like that. They all have different philosophies.
That's an example of how things start, I'm gonna say, getting watered down or moving away from the original source. You start to,
Mhm. Okay. Can you go down a little bit, please? Okay. The corrupt process of the selfish, jealous, amalgamated rulers of the Muslim world converted the Society of Islam into regimentation. human caste, slavery, economic and social degradation, crime, bloodshed, and human destruction, from which was born the army of the mystic banner of the cross, led by a militant white woman, or Patagnia blonde, supported by many wise Muslim women and sons struggling for freedom, which resulted in some 364 years of intermittent conflict from Peru to Alaska. Excuse me. And across the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans in the Northern Hemisphere. A great battle between two different types of religious superstitions, namely Islamism and Crossism, referred to as the great battle between the crescent and the cross, or Muhammad and Christ, the period of crucifixion, lynching, burning, and murdering one another over the ideas of impractical isms and mystery of variety, which has dominated the world for some 400 years and has manifested with racial and color scheme of corruption. The Muslims, with their strenuous ism of mystic religious worship and superstition, are not guilty of the establishment of the race and color scheme. They are guilty of the caste system and segregation according to the class and rank and method of mystic or superstitious religious worship in the institution called mosque, from which was born the institution of worship called church, and the race and color scheme with its marriage license laws established by the Patagonian blonde woman of South America. The system prohibits the issuance of a marriage license to Moorish men or women who desire to marry white women or men in North America, especially in the United States. Upon this is founded the myth of Black and white people's blood, which was born out of the church system, namely the Catholics, Protestants, Baptists, and the Jewry or Jewish Temple of the United States in North America.
I think we're gonna stop right there. But
Yeah.
so we see how it drifted from the original to the where it's at today, and then everybody else that is illuminated is looked at as, at this, either devil worshippers, magicians, etc. We put in that box people that know the original conception of what's going on right now. And we also see, based on the amalgamation and the blending, how original culture kind of died out, to a certain degree.
And it kind of shows, like, even like with the two, right? Those are like the two biggest isms is the Islamism and then Crossism, and there's been a lot of conflict with that, even to the point where they made laws within like marriage, right? So that way they can keep separate, right? The white woman and Moorish men and women, they didn't want the mixing up to happen.
Right. Yeah. Initially. Yeah. Because
Mhm.
they're trying to create that divide,
Mhm.
and it's
But
hard.
because there was a mixture, right? Like now there's like a confusion of like what's the culture and where is because they've established something new, the church, with all the mixed people and everything. Because I know a lot, like over here, in Westminster, like a lot of people, like Vietnamese community, right? They all go to church. They all go to Catholic church. Like almost everyone here is Catholic. I don't like when I went to school out here, like there was some Buddhists, but a lot of people went to church. And that's like forgetting, the ancient practices and going to the church instead to get information.
Right. As an example, you can see in
Yeah.
modern time, right? Because
Hmm.
see, the thing is, anciently, our people had culture that today is called religion. Oh, what's your religion?
Hmm.
So the concepts is blurred. Like, oh, this is my culture for my people. This is how we conducted ourselves. But they're calling it, oh, what's your religion? So that's the thing. And you'll notice that people that got culture, like you said, the Vietnamese community, you said everybody's going to Roman institutions, but Buddhism is more looked at as cultural, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But it's levels to it because that still doesn't stop the Vietnamese community from working together.
Oh
which is
yeah, no, I think they use it as a place to come together as community because I can tell when I was growing up, all my friends they all go like their families knew other families and they go help each other out because the church they had a place where they can come together and do that as a massive like group.
yeah, yeah, and that's the level. That's the levels to it, because the culture is still strong, even though them it's looked at as they're going to a building that's called church. The customs and deeds of the people when they leave the church, they're still dealing with their people. Which is another level.
Mm-hmm.
That's still culture. That's still in harmony to a degree, right? So,
Hmm.
no, but once it gets to a point where you're not even dealing with your people and you're arguing with your own people based on what you call religion, now you're saying we fell off the curve. We fell
Yeah,
off.
but I would say though, if you are going to church, that means you're receiving certain information, certain story that you're being fed because over at the Catholic Church, they are strict, like they go to Bible school at a young age. They have to complete, so at a young age, they're already training them to think and learn a certain way, which is like looking outside of themselves, right?
Right,
For
right,
God
right.
versus like looking inside of self. So it's still I could see it's still good because they still have the culture and the community, but they're not really learning about themselves in the way that they should be in like ancient practices,
Yeah,
right? So that's like
yeah.
you can get wobbly with that.
And like I said, as a Moor, from a Moor perspective, we can see all that. We can, like how you just explained that, like it's levels to it. Like we just want to be able to see all the levels going on, so we can know how to be of service in any
Hmm.
predicament. We want to be, we want to be of service to our people that don't know their culture at all, and then we want to be of service to people that may know their culture, but to a certain extent, but get them all the way to the ancient perspective. You know, but
Reeling them back in.
you're reeling them back in. It's ways to do that. And oh, that's what it was. You said you mentioned something where how people come over here and the second generation speak English, right?
Oh
But their
yes.
but their mom might speak Vietnamese, or her brother, right? Their grandmother. But once they
Mm-hmm.
start coming out here, they get loose a little bit, and now you can't even communicate with your own family. You can't even communicate with your great grandmother because you don't know
Oh
your.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That
So
happened during the war. When the Vietnam War happened, people migrated, right? They came over here and then people lost the language. They couldn't teach their kids because they're just working on surviving, right? And so now you have kids that are older now, right? Adults that have lost touch with the culture if they didn't have a family structure that was strong enough because of that trauma and those events that happened and you had to start all over again. And then now you have like you look in Westminster, you see the American flag and the Vietnamese flag, right? Because they're like, oh yeah, we've like worked together and you've helped us out so much, right? With the United States.
United States flag or
Yeah, the
banner.
United States flag. Yeah, the banner, right? So now because the Vietnamese were like, oh, so great, like you've helped us so much because during the war we fled over here, but you can tell that they've tried to keep the culture intact, but a lot of people are like they consider themselves American. Like I'm American, like I'm United States, they're so proud citizen because of the help that they were getting, but they don't realize all the history and the things. You know what I mean? They just know that they came from war and that okay, this is what it is, and now I get to raise my family and do all this stuff.
And it's the same story with anybody with a nationality that came over here in their third generation. It's the same story. It's the same exact story. It's like they don't realize that their culture is getting more watered down. They don't know their culture like they did, like their ancestors. They might not even know their root language no more as the years go on. But on the flip side, they thinking like, oh, this is a great place. But like you said, when
Mm-hmm.
they know bombs and tanks and this is
Mm-hmm.
freedom. But they don't know the people that exiled them from their homeland was responsible. The United States was part of that crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though over there it might look like the French and the English and whoever, but they're in bed with the United States. They're on the same team, you know, and it's smoke and mirrors. Um, any thoughts on that? Anybody got any comments, statements on that? Let me see. Let's transition to negative and positive aspects. Brother Benjamin Bay, did you wanna, how you feeling? What you got going on over there? Brother Benjamin Bay. Might be moving around. Brother DL, you wanna give a crack at this? Brother DL, you wanna, are you over there froze up? Oh, there
Oh,
you go.
what's that? Oh yeah, I know. I'm back. Okay,
You wanna give it a pop this
I'll
off?
go ahead. Okay, negative and positive aspects of the circle of life and you by Rachamara Vibe,
Love Mariah.
Rosmariah. You spring forth while life and vigor glad to be here. Place is provided for you so you can think and communicate who you are. That place is home, wherein you
Wait, wait,
cultivate.
wait. So let's emphasize the signs, right? So it's saying you spring forth. Aries, right? Why is Aries the glyph after, right? Because that's Aries is in the spring season, right? The characteristics, life, vigor, right? So yeah, just make sure you emphasize the sign as you read.
Okay. Some of these signs I don't know.
Help
Okay,
each other out.
It'll help you out, man.
okay. All right. So you spring forth, and that's to Aries, right? Aries, with life and vigor, glad to be here. A place is provided for you so you can think. What sign is that?
Taurus.
Gemini?
The
Taurus.
Taurus.
Okay, like the bullhead. Okay, so you can think and communicate who you are.
Gemini,
What's Gemini?
right? So
Mm.
Taurus is dealing with the throat, communication, right? It's like Aries dealing with the head. We coming down now, and it's also given a characteristic. So this, yeah, just so you can kind of see how you read, it's flowing here. So communication, Taurus. Now we in Gemini. That's the next one. All right. All right, you got it.
Gemini. That place is home.
Cancer.
Cancer. Wherein you cultivate and are cultivated. Here your self origins lay. In the early stages of self origins, your ability to think and communicate are affected one way or another, good or bad. You are empowered with the authority to create, or your creations are good or bad. Or what is that? Or your creations are stunted.
Let's Leo. Leo.
Leo. That's a Leo. Okay. Now you begin to analyze.
Virgo.
Capricorn?
Virgo.
Okay. What has been sold and how you will serve and serve self and others. All that is sown will be reaped. The crop is you. You unite your surroundings, your deeds, passions, and actions by balance them.
Libra. Balance, right? Libra.
Yeah.
Libra. That's me. Okay. That's what it looks like.
Okay. He's like, that's me. That's you know that one,
I know that.
Libra gang.
Libra gang.
deal.
Okay. Balance equally. Fairly and with justice. But desire takes it place.
Scorpio, desire, right?
Scorpio, desire, Scorpio. Okay. Your desires are representative of the inner you, and they point directly to what you will inspire for.
Right. The Archer. That's Sagittarius.
That's Sagittarius. At your final review, I don't think I've seen this one before.
I don't think I've seen that one before either.
Capricorn. Right?
Like as Capricorn?
Capricorn.
Look like it, yeah.
You determine how and what you will utilize from the proper self. You are left with good, spoiled, or fruitful. Now you must share yourself with the world.
Aquarius.
Aquarius, water bearer. Okay. You pour your being onto and into the outside world, which has to deal with you, good or bad. You cannot help but to do so, as you are a part of humanity. Once you have exposed yourself to the world, it is necessary for you to recoil back into your own self-doing or undoing. Waters? Pisces. Into the recuperative waters to perfect self and be born again.
Now you see how it's all flowing, how all the signs are connected.
Yeah.
How you need
Okay.
To be well-rounded, you need all aspects of all signs.
Okay.
Or if you don't have these qualities, you'll be around signs that'll help you develop these qualities to help bring it out of you, right? Certain
Yeah.
signs that people will do that naturally for you, and just simply
Right.
being around them, you know. Okay, so we got positive results of the circle.
Positive results of the circle of life.
Aries,
Virgo, Aries, okay. One who enters on a positive level does not become stuck in their own ego-centered passions. Instead, they become givers of dynamic energy that feeds the egos of others positively. Taurus,
Taurus.
one who does not become possessive becomes a provider to self and family of others. One who thinks
Gemini.
Gemini, good and positive thoughts plants good seeds for cultivation of which was nurtured in
Cancer.
Cancer. In a positive manner will always create Scorpio.
yeah,
Leo.
Leo.
You're getting it. It's okay. You're getting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
Like
DL, go right down the line with it. Go right down the line as you
Yeah, with
hit
the
those.
months.
Yeah, with the months, when you hit
Mhm.
those that particular zodiac, just reference, the month with the birth, someone.
Mhm.
And I yield. I'm messing up.
go ahead, it's all good.
You're right. You're right, Larry. The way that it's going from Aries all the way down
Yeah,
to
yeah, just
Pisces.
flow it. Yeah, just flow from it from the beginning of the year to the end.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, it's
basically
going
it.
like
Just
that.
go in that order. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So after
Okay.
Leo
Leo,
is like
Virgo,
July,
Good.
Libra,
August. Yep.
Scorpio.
Got it. So right now we at
On
uh
analyzing, Virgo.
okay. Where we at?
Oh,
In a positive manner will we create what's that? We was just at it. It was
We're at
it's not
Leo.
Leo. That's Leo. Okay, Leo. So we're in August.
yeah, Leo.
Okay, Leo, good fruit instead of crops of spoil. Upon analyzing, now that's not Libra.
That's Virgo.
Virgo right
That's
here.
Virgo.
Virgo.
September.
Okay, Virgo's after. Okay, upon analyzing Virgo crops, one will distribute them to serve others in a positive, uplifting manner. All that is done in the dark will be brought to the light, wherein it is understood. Balance, Libra, in
Hmm.
preparation for judgment. Hereon, one's true desires, Scorpio,
Yeah,
are exposed, indicating what they aspire
that's it.
Sag.
Sagittarius for. One will only utilize Capricorn,
Capricorn.
that which is within its understanding, and share Aquarius, that
Aquarius.
which is in its reach. The process is perfected,
Pisces.
Pisces. It ends and begins again with the desire to produce an unspoiled positive crop and to reach higher each time, enhancing humanity.
Right. So this is the positive aspects. Never, the best version of yourself. I think they call it malefic. No, but benefic and malefic. So basically, each sign has basically when they're feeling good and things are in alignment, they got a part of themselves when it's not so good. So now we're gonna go over the negative results of the circle of life.
Wait, so I have something to say real quick. So that was talking about the circle of life, but it was also like referencing like with the zodiac signs from the calendar, right? From January all the way down to December. And I was talking about the circle of life, how it starts like putting in the energy, and then how Pisces is the last sign, and it's talking about the ends and the beginnings, starting over again, the
Right.
circle of life. I just want to point that out.
Yep. Circle of life. 9 months. So it is 360 degrees that we're covering, but it's still the number 9 that we're dealing with. It's 3, 6, and 0 is not a symbol of life. All right, so negative results of the circle of life.
Negative results of the circle of life. One who enters Aries on a negative level becomes hung up in egotistical pursuits that serve only themselves with no recognition of the effects on others. One who becomes obsessed with possessiveness,
Taurus.
Taurus, brings shame upon themselves. One who thinks negative thoughts,
Gemini.
Gemini.
Gemini, must realize that those thoughts will play themselves out with negative manifestation. One who nurtures not
Answer.
Sir.
Cancer will produce bad fruit, which will in turn recreate.
Libra.
Hold on,
Leo.
Leo.
No, you
Leo.
got it. Let's let DL do it. You got it, DL.
Okay, let me get it.
You
Okay,
got it. Take
Leo.
your time. We're not gonna say it anymore. Take your time.
Okay, let me take my time. Bad fruit for the spoil. One who has no discernment, Virgo,
Mm-hmm.
will serve others with a cruel hand. Things done in the dark will be exposed to light, and if they are not uniting, Libra, or
Mm-hmm.
universal deeds, judgment of them will be stern. One cannot hide from their desires. Scorpio. No. Yeah,
Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Yep.
If their desires are based negatively, their aspirations, hold on, that's the Capricorn,
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius, okay, will be of a lower nature. One who has produced spoiled fruit will not be useful, Capricorn, but will be abusive. If one shares with the world, Aquarius, negative energies, thoughts, and ideas, the service to humanity is lacking. One who lives in an unrealistic Pisces negative manner will return to do it all again from square number one.
Right. So we see it. We see all these characteristics, right? So we see the Pisces, they can kind of drift off, right?
Yeah,
Be unrealistic sometimes. But this is on the negative side, right? So we have good, and then you need to be around Earth to be realistic, to ground this water. So all the elements is there for us to use as tools.
Hmm.
The
I
elements.
do want to mention though, when you're looking up your birth chart, we're made up of all these different. We can't just think of just the one sun sign, right?
Right.
So that's why it's important to know your birth chart, so you know all these different what kind of elements do you have, and where do you need to get balanced out at, and even to like do that with your partner too. Get your birth chart done, and then your partner's birth chart done, and then just see where the help needs to be at, or where you can assist one another energetically. Not just only looking at the
yeah,
sun sign, right? Because we're more than just a sun sign. We have a whole birth chart.
right.
This is a fun read, huh? Like
Yeah,
a
it was
little.
cool. It was fun.
It was
Like
fun,
a
huh?
little,
It was
yeah,
a
like
nice little review
a review. We got a little
of like
a
the
pop
signs and
quiz.
everything.
Yeah, quick
Yeah, it's a pop
little,
quiz. Surprise. We put you on the spot, Dia.
I know, right? I'm getting it. I'm getting it.
You
Yeah,
getting it? No, you got it.
I
You
got it
got it.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Does everyone know their birth chart? What's your Trinity? What's your 3?
No, I don't
Yeah,
know mine.
yeah, I know mine. My son. This is Larry Bay, by the way. Yeah, my sun sign is Gemini. My moon sign is Cancer.
Mhm.
I believe in one of C. I can't recall one of C.M. Bay's books. He breaks down how to calculate your moon sign, because he was saying that the moon takes 30 days to orbit the Earth. So it goes through all the zodiacs, and I think it stays within the zodiac for like 2 to 3 days. So obviously the first month of the year, or the first zodiac, is Aries, and then you start calculating from there. And then that's how you're able to see exactly. But you have apps that will give you that information readily at your disposal. But if you just calculating on your own, each zodiac, the moon resides, it stays in one zodiac for the average of 2 to 3 days. Then it moves on in rotation of 30 days.
Mm. That was kind of like is that kind of like what the time that Benjamin Bay was talking about? Like that? Or is that a different calculation?
Yeah, it's something like that. It was something like that. Way I was reading it and understanding it, overstanding it when I ran across it. I saw that and I was like, oh, that's how they do it. That's how they calculate the moon month. It's like, okay. But yeah, man, it's interesting, man. Once you start learning this information, and then you're able to start charting and start creating a path for yourself, and you start seeing your strengths, your weaknesses, and so forth. And then, your partner, your mates, the people that you interact with, you're able to start. You can start, not I'm not gonna say manipulate people, but you can start reading people a lot easier and dealing with them just based on their zodiac. Their sun sign and their moon sign.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It is fascinating to get to know. I've been reading it myself a lot lately.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's like just being able to read energy, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Being able to read people's energy.
Exactly. Everyone has a moving energy, you know. So yeah, it's definitely true.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah. Benjamin Bear talking about the hours though, like each hour
Mm.
designated with a sign, hour of the day as well.
Hmm. Does anyone else know their sun, moon, and ascendant sign?
I'm gonna look mine up on the app once we get off.
Let's see. My sun is Pisces. My moon is
Yeah,
Libra.
I'm not
My
sure.
ascendant is Cancer. Here's-
I think
So with
Trey.
those three, how do you incorporate them into yourself? I thought it was, I thought you would, how does that work?
Yeah,
Um, go ahead,
yeah, they
Larry.
have no, they have charts for that. They have charts for that because like I said earlier, my sun sign is Gemini, my moon sign is Cancer, my controlling planet is Mercury. So I just get into the whole dynamics and understanding of those three forces together and kind of, put it in a way that I can see myself how I operate within those three forces. You get what I'm saying? So I understand that in my sun sign, it says that I have an enjoyment of public speaking, also for traveling and so forth. And it's funny because that's part of what my journey has been in life, not knowing before I came into more science, not knowing that this was my chart that I was actually living through. And my intellectual studies is based on my moon sign being in Cancer. That's where my intellectual studies and thought comes from. And that's another thing about Geminis. We're very intellectual, strong-minded people, you know. And I was like, man, that's where I get all these fascinations with learning and things, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Man,
Mercury, man.
it's deep.
That's we share the same ruling planet.
That's right. That's right. Virgo and Gemini, dude. We do share the same ruling planet. That is right.
Communication and intellect, analytical. That's Mercury. Mercury, man. Let's see here. So I had Mayat, the 11 Laws of God. We read all of chapter 1 actually. So chapter 2 is dealing with Law of Amen, Sphere 0 of the Tree of Life, proof of God's existence. So to tie it in with everything else we've been reading, but a different vantage point, cross-referencing, right? There is a world of a difference in being able to say that you believe in God's existence versus saying that you know that God exists. The difference is not readily apparent to most people as they do not have a keen understanding of the meaning of the word belief. Let's say that there is a pot of beans on the stove and it usually takes about 60 to 90 minutes to thoroughly cook this type of beans. What would be your response if asked if the beans are thoroughly cooked at the 60-minute point and you could not actually check the beans? You only have the time estimate to suggest the answer, as there is an obvious element of doubt due to the absence of evidence. You can only answer with I don't know, or I believe so, or it is possible, or may not, etc. And let's say that you are given a multiple choice test, which your life depends on the correct answer. You are asked to choose the correct answer to the above statement. A, I know that the beans are thoroughly cooked. B, I believe that the beans are thoroughly cooked. Since the time element suggests that the beans could be cooked, B is the correct choice. While it is easy to see in this example, and many others like it, that we express belief when we lack proof, and are thus not able to say that we know, most people cannot see the principle when they express belief in God's existence, opposed to expressing that they do know, have proof that God exists. To say I believe is to say I don't know. Before you rush to say that you don't know, let's understand that the expression of knowledge requires giving proof, and proof requires the presentation of evidence that must be universally accepted to everyone. Evidence that cannot be argued away. It is because of evidence that we know and don't believe in the existence of sea mammals, dinosaurs, volcanoes, electricity, etc. We don't believe that if we make contact with a certain amount of electrical voltage for a certain amount of time, that it will kill us. We know that's right. We know that's true. We know if we touch a hot stove, it's going to burn us. We know H2O is water, right? It's not a belief. H2O is just water. It is what it is. So to clearly understand these differences, it is important to note that when we experience an object, there is always the properties of the object itself, the objective side, and our ideas and feelings about the object, the subjective side. In other words, the object as it is, independent of us, and what is in the mind of the object, dependent on us. To one person, the day will be warm, and to another, it will be hot. And they can argue for days about it and never agree. This is the nature of subjective expression. On the other hand, they will all have to agree if it is said that it is 70 degrees Celsius, objective expression. When our experience of the world is expressed in objective language, we must all agree because we are making a statement that denotes the object as it is, or agree with a universally accepted standard or universally recognized category. So yeah, it could be warm to me, it could be hot to somebody else, but you can't argue with the Fahrenheit or the Celsius. Is it 70 degrees or is it not? It is what it is. You can't argue that. When we use subjective language, many will disagree because the statement denotes that what we think or how we feel, which can also be different for the speaker at another time. Subjective expressions are therefore categorized as beliefs, while objective expressions are categorized as knowledge. With this understanding in place, we must look at the fact that most religions have failed to explain God's being in an objective manner that all would have to agree. You say you believe or have faith because you can't explain something, or a process with the objectivity, with universal agreement that accompanies the subjection of water to 32 degrees Celsius to get ice. Right? We can't argue that. And since you can't say that you know, there's always room for doubt and belief, always room for the faith to be shaken. Or as most people do, simply go about their lives in a fashion that does not, in reality, take into account their belief in God or their religious doctrines, despite the lip service. So it's back to what Trey L was saying earlier. The religion that most people claim they have, laws and ways of life, that each religion talks about. But if that person is not living up to what they say they are, then it's just lip service. How, for example, can a scientist, so-called, be comparable with the declaration of belief in God, yet support a theory of creation that does not or cannot objectively, universally, agreeably place God at the helm of creation? How can a politician declare God to be the ruler of the world, yet separate the state from God, right? Separation of church and state. Leave God out of the school in government. Could it be they neither know God or science? Should God be the dominant factor in the lives of religious or spiritual people? An in-depth analysis of people's lives will show that this is not so. While most critics try to lay the blame on the people themselves, charging them with hypocrisy or being hypocrites, the blame rests with the religions and spiritual systems themselves. And back to the clock of destiny, it's the middleman, person, the rabbi, the preacher, whoever whatever person is given that version of the history of whatever they're talking about. It could distinguish, it could be different from his version or her version versus what's actually being relayed, right? The role God plays in a person's life depends on whether the person believes in God's being or has knowledge of God's being. One of the greatest damage done to the world was the declaration by Western scientists that science contradicts religion. That one of the greatest advancements in man's intelligence, in fact, a miracle occurred when the Greeks took God out of the picture of creation. To account for the absence of an intelligent being responsible for the creation, Western scientists invented the concept of chance and random activity. My answer to such notions is that the Greeks unwittingly managed to separate defective views about science from defective views about God, and no one noticed. Fact is, the more you understand logic, mathematics, and science, the closer you get to God. That's an interesting statement. The closer you get to logic, mathematics, and science, the closer you get to God. And I find that fascinating because most of us on here should know when we look up the word God in etymology, it takes us to invoke. So invoke is, manifested. So God is not a noun. It's not a person, place, or thing. Most people are utilizing God connotatively to express the creator of the heavens and the earth. So the word God and the creator of the heavens and the earth are two separate concepts. But to get closer with the creator of the heavens and the earth, we must come closer to mathematics, science, and logic. And why are we saying that? Back to water. It's H2O. That's science. That's exactness. That's something that's measurable. And if it's measurable, if it's mathematics, that means 1 + 1 = 2. That's logical. You're not going to say 1 + 1 = 3. So if being in tune with nature is one thing, and you start realizing nature has formulas and exactness to how nature is constructed, because water is nature, right? If we can get so specific to say water, an element in nature, is H2O, we're in harmony with known nature, right? So that's what stood out to me as far as that. To corroborate the statement that logic, mathematics, and science brings you closer to the creator of the heavens and earth. Because the creator of the heavens and earth lay behind formulas, exactness, to get in tune with nature, right? To mix nature up and create medicine, right? To mix nature up to, once again, see who brings the best version out of yourself. by being around some other nature, or i.e. another human being that has a different nature than you have to an extent, right? To enhance your nature. So these are different examples. First concept states that the creation of matter in the world began with the Big Bang, or gases. As a result of certain forces acting upon them, exploded, generating a great amount of heat that upon cooling down formed the elements. First hydrogen was created, then helium, and so on. The second concept states that the elements so produced came together by chance and formed living things, which in the course of time created intelligence. What would be your conclusion if you traveled to a distant uninhabited planet and found a stack of bricks, exactly alike in size and weight, some set up according to a geometric series, while another group, it was arranged to make the letters of the alphabet? Would you not conclude that some intelligent being got there before you and was responsible for the arrangement? Somehow, scientists have missed the fact that following the Big Bang, the creation of elements proceeded according to strict mathematical rules. All elements are made up of the same components, just configured differently. The progression from one element to the next follows a strict mathematical pattern in which the underlying properties of each element are repeated in the element 8 places away. The cyclic or cycle or periodic return of qualities is the basis of the arranging the elements into a periodic table. Or the period, everybody, I imagine everybody have seen the periodic table of the elements and how they're constructed based on electrons, protons, etc., right? And the mere fact that it could be two human beings next to each other with a different fingerprint, different impulses, etc., is another example of two people made from the same fabric, so to say, right? All humans come out the same way as far as how they're conceived, but they have different DNA, right? Different grouping, a different mathematical pattern, but having the same physical experience. We must also note that although each element is different, their structure all follow the same pattern. The fundamental unit of the element is the atom. In the Bible, it's called, the atom is spelled a little different. It's called ADAM. But it's talking about the same thing. Adam and the evolution of the atom, or Adam and Eve. Eve is short for evolution. So the fundamental unit of the element is the atom, and atoms are composed of positively charged particles named protons, neutral particles named neutrons, which together occupy the center of the atom, or the nucleus. Swirling around this nucleus are negatively charged particles named electrons. And that goes back to the as above, so below, because that whole orbit, we know the Earth is orbiting around the sun and other planets orbit, right? But in everything that lives has the same orbit. We just might need a microscope to see it. But as above, so below is going on. What I want to call to your attention next is the configuration of these electrons. All right, everything's electrons, everything is neutrons, but it's how it's arranged differently to give you something different. Actually, the product is different, right? They swirl around the nucleus in different orbits called shells. The first shell holds a maximum of 2 electrons, the second 8, the third 18, the fourth 32. This gives us the mathematical series of what we're looking at right here. What is remarkable in the above arrangement is that the various elements, iron, gold, etc., which are composed of different configurations of the above particles, follow the same pattern as shown above when arranged on the periodic table of elements. We find that the same shaping force that is responsible for the creation of shells that hold electrons organizes the distribution of the elements in nature so that they show the same arrangement in the periodic table. Thus, we find in the distribution of the elements that they follow the same 2, 8, 18, and 32 series. So I don't know whoever took science class, this is basic 8th grade science right here. Looking at has anybody remember that science class we're talking about ionic bonds? You know, certain atoms, if they have a surplus on their outer ring and then another atom is deficient of some rings, that atom will lend some electrons to make it the equilibrium. So therefore, that's a magnetic connection just on that. We're just getting to the specifics of the attraction because simply it's deficient. But if you don't go that deep, you just look at it, oh, it's a magnetic attraction, but it's called an ionic bond. You look that up. And it follows these series. You can't shake it. That's the law of how atoms are constructed. It's not a belief, okay? It's not a debate. It is what it is. In the first row, we have 2 elements, hydrogen and helium. In the rows 2 and 3, we find 8 elements in each row. In rows 4 and 5, we find 18 elements in each row. In row 6, we find 32 elements. And in row 7, we find 23 elements. The last row does not break the pattern. It contains elements that are so unstable that the limit of the integration has been reached before reaching 32, the 32nd possible element. It is as if the atoms, taken as a whole, were all electrons swirling around some unknown nuclear force, right? Dealing with gravity. So all this is very interesting, but we are not interested in chemistry at this point. Remember, your conclusion about those neatly arranged blocks you found on Planet X. That was last chapter a couple weeks ago, that example. What we have here is the fact that long before a living thing could have come into being to create intelligence, there is something acting in an intelligent, very intelligent way in the creation of the atom and the elements. One thing is for a pattern to occur as an organizing force inside the atom. Seeing it act again as an organizing force outside the atom reinforces the idea of an organizing, intelligent presence at work. So before you see the person, like you see my hands moving, you see me talking, you see how I process information, you see how my vibe. Before you seen this, it was atoms doing the same thing on a micro level. Before I became who I am, the organization of these atoms and electrons. What is a fact, however, the process occurs is that there is a numerical basis to it. Well, we just covered the numerical basis up here, 2, 8, 18, 32. There is an evidence of intelligence behind it. Problem with Western man is that he has the greatest problem understanding the existence of an intelligent presence, lacking a physical or maternal body. An intelligence that perceives and creates physical things. There is no justification to think that this cannot be, as there is no evidence to contradict its existence. On the contrary, there is evidence staring us right in the face to at least believe or ponder about his presence. However, Westerners choose to define God to themselves. Is their prerogative. We apprehend God's being in the same way that we do the movement that is responsible for sound, which is generated by the collision of molecules set in motion by the moving what? So that's like things at rest versus the catalyst to stimulate things, right? Or we say patah or whatnot. We perceive God's presence through its intelligence. It is the intelligence behind all the laws of nature, which can be understood through the qualitative logic or quantitative logic or mathematics. So God is the intelligent being responsible for the behavior of inanimate and living things. Scientists must deal with this or come up with a credible explanation for the source of this intelligence, or dismiss it on the grounds that it does not exemplify intelligence. In the Big Bang account of creation, we saw that long before the first atom was created, let alone the creation of living things out of the combination of atoms, there is intelligence at work in the world designing and guiding the process of creation. Scientists missed another stupendous opportunity to perceive God's being. They claim that, like the creation of the universe, life also came into being by special chance combination of molecules, and later on brought consciousness and intelligence, like an exorcism, I suppose, into existence. Let's take a deeper look at what science has discovered about the foundation of living things. The idea that living things came into being as the result of chance combination of molecules derived its strength from the belief. There goes that unreliable factor again. So the author has a little humor. I see the little dry humor. That what distinguished living matter from inanimate matter was irritability, responsiveness to the environment. Of the former, this irritability, quote unquote, translated somehow into the ability to adapt to the environment through feeding, growth, mobility, reproduction, and the host of metabolic functions that are characteristics of living things. That idea, the idea that the foundation of life was in that quote unquote irritability of living matter or protoplasm. And that's in the Quran too, that terminology. Could have been excused until 1953 when J.B. Watson and F.H. Crick, two scientists at Cambridge University, discovered the phenomena that characterize the expression of living things is based on four proteins, adrene, designated in molecular biology as thymine, guanine, G,
Cytosine. It's
chitosine,
thymine, guanine, and cytosine.
and these are the
That
glyphs.
makes up the DNA,
Mhm.
is what they call the ATGC. When you think of like the helix of the DNA, those all attached, A and T attached to each other, and then G and C attached to each other.
So these four chemicals, which account for all the structural and functional phenomena in living things, accomplish their goal through a strict and complex mathematical process. All four are arranged three at a time as a double strand helix in different ways to form another molecule, right? DNA, like you said, which is the fundamental unit underlying the genes. So genes are mathematical, or what's order to it, the combinations of them, right? Their arrangement yields 64 combinations, out of which the vast diversity of living forms in nature is produced. The conclusion is that information, design, pattern, mathematical thinking, and not irritability are at the foundation of the creation of living things or living matter. Not a single living form could come into being without this complex, very complex mathematical design at its foundation. We must conclude that it is intelligence that created living things and not the other way around. And this intelligence does not have a body. What? Who is it? That's a comedy. What is the extent of this intelligence? Do not scientists have proof of its omniscience? What scientists have learned from nature to what is there to be known is like a grain of sand to the universe. So the reason I just wanted to read this after we read what we read earlier is because, like in the Clock of Destiny, it is summarizing about the mathematics and intelligence being really what it's about in religion. And here's another book essentially saying the same thing. And it's back to the whole Gnostic philosophy. And even what we're here to do as humans, we're here to continue to learn. That's why the etymology of man simply is to think. Man just means to think or use your mind. If you're using your mind, you're being intellectual. If you're being intellectual, you're going to solve equations, assess patterns. You're going to look at things in a scientific perspective, collect data, and learn from the data that you acquire as you live your life. That's all I wanted to read in this section. Any thoughts, conversation about this? And the reason I went into when I said like Adam is spelled different in Genesis for ADAM, it's just to kind of invoke thought, because when we say Holy Bible, we take holy back to the etymology. It's gonna go to Helios, which means sun, and Biblios goes to the book, right? So Genesis is dealing with genetics. That's essentially what it's dealing with, genetics and things that are going on in the orbit of the world. It's fitting that it's talking about Adam and the evolution of the atom, but in the story, it's going to say Adam and Eve. Right. So it's just what your background is, what information that you know. And once again, once you get scholarship and erudition, and you become a Gnostic, and then you start reading these most common holy books, it's gonna pop out to you anyway. Like, oh, I see the symbolism. I see what it's trying to relate. And you're not necessarily gonna get rocked to sleep with the story itself, or realize that there's levels to the story. That story may be talking about 3 different things at one time, or whatever the case may be. Just want to be able to spot it out.
Really quick. So, what you were reading was pretty much saying that God is like an energy, or like the manifestation, or like, because we talk about the cosmos, right? And how we're like energy. So, God isn't that person that they put up in church. God is that cosmic energy that was put into us for us to manifest in the physical world. But it started somewhere, right? There's an intelligence that has no physical body. That's where the energy source came from, to be instilled in us. That's what this was talking about. Because they talk about scientists and the Big Bang Theory and all that. They try to, it goes down mathematically, right? Which, when in nature, like you said, everything could be calculated.
Right. Yeah, and that's the whole thing, is the calculation to even have these formulas. It's things that have been left behind for us to have a Gnostic approach. And as a matter of fact, to even forecast most, the seers and the people that forecast, and even the weather, people that forecast the weather, all they doing is looking at trends and data, right? To even be like, oh, it's gonna rain next week on Tuesday. Like, you know what I mean? How are they coming up with this? they're looking at patterns and trends, right? And that's back to science, a scientific perspective. Which is logical, right? So when you're logical, you're closer to God. Oh, that's the part I like. That's earth sign, logical. The logical earth
Mhm.
sign stuff.
But you know, when you're intuitive and in your feelings too, you're also pretty close, aren't you?
No, you're right. I'm being
I just had to throw that out there as, being a
Look at
woman, intuition, that balance.
mm-hmm. Left and right
Mhm.
brain hemispheres, ain't that energy and motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
relaxed. Being a little biased here.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess we can close out with the Quran. Anybody want to volunteer to read the Quran?
I will.
All right. Chapter 2. Education of Mary and Elizabeth in Zoan, Egypt.
Number one, the son of Herod, Archelaus, reigned in Jerusalem. He was a selfish, cruel king. He put to death all those who did not honor him. He called in council all the wisest men and asked about the infant claimant to his throne. The council said that John and Jesus both were dead. Then he was satisfied. Now Joseph, Mary, and their son were down in Egypt in Zoan, and John was with his mother in the Judean hills. Elihu and Salome
Shalom.
sent Salome sent messengers in haste to find Elizabeth and John. They found them, they brought them to Zoan. Now Mary and Elizabeth were marveling much because of their deliverance. Elihu said, "It is not strange, there are no happenings, law governs all events. From olden times it was ordained that you should be with us and in this sacred school be taught." Elihu and Salome Elihu and Salome took Mary and Elizabeth out to the sacred grove nearby where they were wont to teach. Where they were wont to teach.
It's a typo, but they want to teach.
Where they want to teach. Elihu said to Mary and Elizabeth, "You may esteem yourself thrice blessed, for you are chosen mothers of long-promised sons, who are ordained to lay a solid rock, a sure foundation stone on which the temple of the perfect man shall rest, a temple that should never be destroyed. We measure time by cycle ages, and the gate to every age we deem a milestone in the journey of the race. An age has passed, the gate unto another age flies, open at the torch of time. This is the preparation age of soul. The kingdom of Emmanuel, of Allah, is man. And these your sons will be the first to tell the news and teach the gospel of good will to men and peace on earth. A mighty works in their poor carnal men want not the light. They love the dark, and when the light shines in the dark, they comprehend it not. We call these sons revelers of the light, but they must have the light before they can reveal the light. And you must teach your sons and set their souls on fire with love and holy zeal, and make them conscious of their missions to the sons of men. Teach them that Allah and man are one, but through carnal thoughts and words and deeds, man tore himself away from Allah, debased himself. Teach that the holy breath would make them one again, restoring harmony and peace. That not can make them one but love, that Allah so loved the world that he has clothed his sons in flesh, that man may comprehend. The only savior of the world is love, and Jesus, son of Mary, comes to manifest that love to men. Now, love cannot manifest itself. Its way has been prepared, and not can rend the rock and bring down lofty hills and fill the valleys up, and thus prepare the way but purity. But purity in life men do not comprehend, and so it too come in flesh. And Elizabeth and you, Elizabeth, are blessed because yours is purity made flesh, and he shall pave the way for love. This age will comprehend but little of the works of purity and love, but not a word is lost. For in the book of Allah's remembrance, a registry is made of every thought and word and deed. And when the world is ready to receive, lo, Allah will send a messenger to open the book and copy from its sacred pages all the pages of purity and love. Then every man of earth will read the works of life and language of his native land, and men will see the light, walk in the light, and be the light. And man again will be at one with Allah.
Excellent chapter.
Mhm.
And we see the principles, it starts off talking about, of course, Mary, the son, Yahshua. You see the sage or the noble letting the mother know what's about to come. It's about to be greatness. And you must, be great so your son can be great. And that's a concept of back to the matriarch, making sure our future heirs are able to do great work. They got good ingredients in them. Because the mother had good ingredients in them. Um, in order to be a light bearer, you gotta have a light first in order to, give the light, right? So you gotta have the truth. You gotta have what's really going on around here to spread that information of what's really going on around here. And this stood out to me too. The law governs all events. Back to what we were reading earlier, back with simply water. H2O. That's a law to what water is. That governs all events. That's an example. Thing that stood out to me. We measure time by cycle ages, right? We're in the Aquarian age right now, per se. And then the kingdom of Emmanuel. I don't know if whoever's looked up a metaphysical Bible dictionary, but Emmanuel is symbolic for divinity, or reaching the deific self. So that's all men can do that, right? Allah and man. That's something that stood out to me as well.
You know what stood out to me? Number 21. The only savior of the world is love.
Yes.
Love is healing. It really is. It heals everything. Someone could be sick and you can feel some love and feel much better. You didn't take any medicine, you didn't do anything. All you did is just receive a little love from somebody, either from yourself or somebody else, and you just feel better. You don't feel as sick anymore.
Yeah.
All people need is just a little love,
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this in this chapter? Alrighty. So I guess we can close out the prayer that'll adjourn today's meeting. Oh Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day. through his holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Amen. So what we got on?
Amen.
We got on here is call right now. Oh, so I guess I gotta get with Larry Bay, see when he's free, and a couple other members that's physically out here, so we can figure out what our once a month time and day is gonna be.
Is it gonna be on a Sunday once a month, or is it gonna be like just depending on everyone's schedule?